Animator 4.4 update webinar. There's a couple of new updates with 4.4, as you probably already know. One is the ability now to import your 3D motions into the Cartoon Animator 4 environment using the Motion Link plugin, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We'll also talk about how to, create backgrounds for your 2D scene, create a bunch of stuff. We'll go from there. You can see the outline here. You've probably already seen this outline. We're going to go through all this stuff here. You can view it on your own time. Just a couple of things to start off. We will, as always, have a Q&A session at the very end of this webinar. So any questions you have throughout the webinar, you can always just feel free to put those in the Q&A panel, in your Q&A section of your Zoom panel there, and I'll answer those in the last little bit of the webinar. We have a lot of participants today, so thanks everyone for attending. What else? Yeah, we're going to be sending out a survey to you guys after the webinar here. So if you have any suggestions for future webinars, any feedback you want to give us, feel free to put that in the survey, and we'll give you a 10% discount for the content store upon receipt of that survey. All right, and I think that's about it. We are live streaming this on YouTube as well, on our YouTube channel. We are recording it for posterity, so if I go through anything too fast or you want to review it on your own time, we'll also be sending you guys links later on where you can review it at your convenience. Okay, I think that about does it for the introductions. Just wanted to remind you guys, in the content store, as always, we have a weekly special. If you go to your content store, there's a weekly special section over here, updated every Thursday. You can click on it right now, and you can see we have a few cool looking 2D horses. These are horses, G3 animals, available for Cartoon Animator 4 for $5, regular price $39. Just wanted to make you aware of that. And we'll talk about something a little bit later called Actor Core, which is the ability. It's kind of like you can call it a 3D motion library, basically, where we're going to be taking a bunch of 3D motions. We're not going to be using Actor Core today, but I want to just mention it. We'll get back to it a little bit later on. I can actually just kind of introduce it to you quickly right now. If we go up to the Reallusion main page here, Actor Core. If you go to products here, there's Cloud Services, Actor Core. So it's basically a huge library of 3D motions. We encourage any of you who have access to motion capture stuff, submit your motion content to Actor Core, and you can sell it to other users on our site. Tons of stuff. Just sign up if you're a Reallusion member. Just log in. Tons of motions available for really cheap. You can download them and export them into various other platforms. Okay, if you have any other questions about this, feel free to ask me later on in the Q&A section. All right, I think that's it for the brief introduction. Anything else? Nope. Let's go ahead and close down Chrome for now, just to save up some RAM. And what we're going to do is we're going to start actually in iClone. Okay, so I have iClone and Cartoon Animator opened up. And what I'm going to do in iClone is I'm going to create sort of a background for our eventual 2D project. In case you didn't know, it's very easy to export transparent PNGs from iClone. You can use them as backgrounds. You can use them as props. And I just wanted to kind of show you that capability before we move on to the Motion Link stuff. So I'm going to go to Smart Gallery. There's a content pack called Toontown. You can find it in the content store. I'm just going to search Toon up here. Maybe not be able to see it here. Yeah, I just searched in the search gallery there, Toon. If I move it over here. There you go. Toon up there. And it'll show all the Toon packs that I've purchased. As always in the Smart Gallery, if they're grayed out, that means you haven't downloaded them yet, but you've purchased them. The colored ones will be the ones that you've already purchased. You can see I've purchased a lot that I haven't downloaded, but they're all in my Smart Gallery, so I can download them whenever I want. And if you're in the All folder, you can just go ahead and click on the pack itself under the Pack tab, and you can find all the stuff that's available in this City Elements Toontown. If you want, I can put that in the chat window a little bit later on. I may be putting links in the chat window as we move along, but yeah, we can go ahead and we'll do that next time. If you want me to put it, you can also just search it, City Elements Toontown, on the content store, and you'll find it there as well. Okay, there's a whole bunch of cool stuff. There's this project that basically includes all of the Toon stuff. It's actually saved as an iTerrain. You can see .iTerrain here. So if I double click on that, this is just a whole project where the Toontown is already put together. And I'll show you how to assemble it manually in just a sec here. So here it is. If I zoom out, you can see, you know, and what we can do, since this is kind of like a toon themed pack, what we can do is we can basically get to any angle we want. We can go like to here, for example. Let's just do something like this. Whoops, I got my zoom panel out of the way there. And you can see right now the background is all gray. Okay, so if, say for example, we wanted this as our background. All we need to do is go up to render and render image, and make sure we have image selected, PNG, current frame. Your frame size can be whatever you want, however large you want the image to be. And everything else pretty much the way it is. Just make sure you render the current frame, not the sequence, okay? So whatever current frame we're on, and then go export. And I'm gonna create a desktop folder here just for our webinar here, 4.4 webinar, whoops. And we'll just save it into here. So this is our project background. Okay, so you can see the area by the flags in the background is now transparent. And if I were to import that into my Cartoon Animator project, I can simply go into my 4.4 webinar folder here, and I can just click and drag that project background into Cartoon Animator here. And we can import it in various ways. I like to import it as a prop because it's the most flexible method of importing. And you can see here's our background, right? So we can just resize this to whatever we want. And then we can bring in characters. So it's really as easy as that, just to kind of import in backgrounds. There may be a few tweaks that you want to do. One of those tweaks may be adjust the lighting. So if I just go ahead and let's go back into iClone here. I'm going to just start a new project and load a couple of buildings in manually. Smart gallery. So you can see here, there's this building that's actually consists of two separate buildings. Okay, so we have these two separate buildings together, and then we can, you know, there's a whole bunch of props here that come with this pack, all sorts of different toon style buildings. You can even have like menu boards and stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly construct, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm going to quickly construct a sort of a town here. We'll just bring this over here. And you can see now we have these two buildings. What I can do is I can just go up here and select this Align To tool and click on this second building, align to the X, Y axes, and just press OK. And then if you want to move, because basically they're in the same area right now, if you want to move it, just press the W hotkey. That'll bring up your movement gizmo, and then just move it over like this. So we can go like this and maybe to there. Important thing to note in iClone when you're assembling a scene, if you go up to Edit and you go to Preferences, or you can also press Control P, there's an option here to Snap to Model. I like to use this when assembling you know, buildings like this together, so they just kind of snap right to each other. It's a very kind of useful thing to use. You can also use the Control M hotkey there, okay? And that's why when I move it, it just kind of snaps like this, snap. You can see it snaps like that. Now we have a background for, you know, we can have a background at a 90-degree angle like this, if we want a very, very 2D feel, or if we want to add a little bit of three-dimensionality to it, like we do in this scene, we're going to give that like maybe a 45-degree angle, something like this. This is going to be like the background of our scene, basically right here. Okay. And of course, from that point on, you can throw in like, there's a road here somewhere. Where is it? Where's my road? Pretty sure it's, let's just use this foundation here. And where did it go? There it is. I think there's a road one that's easier to apply though. Oh no, the road one is in Cartoon Animator. We're going to combine it later with Cartoon Animator. That's right. Okay, so in iClone, all I want to do is just get a nice angle like this. This is going to be the background of my scene. One of my characters is going to walk up to the other character right here in the middle, and that's that. So again, you can just throw in whatever you want, like a street lamp, yada yada, and so on and so forth. Maybe you'll throw in a menu board there just to make it look kind of interesting. Okay, good enough. You know, we're not going to be too picky. So again, I'm going to go through the same process here. of just rendering this out as a PNG file, and then we're going to import it in as a background into Cartoon Animator. So let's go ahead and do that. Render image, and make sure again PNG current frame, and just go ahead and export. Okay, so we'll call it BG2. Okay, and just save that. There we go. Okay, now again, you may want to do things like go to your visual tab and adjust the lighting. If you don't want any shadows, for example, in your project, in some cases you may not want that. What I would recommend doing is go to the scene tab and actually delete all of the lights. So, or actually just maybe even deactivate them by pressing this button right here. And then you can use, go to your visual tab, and at the bottom of the visual tab, there's a IBL. Okay, so this is an IBL map, and you can find some custom IBL maps if you go to your content and you go to your scene media here rather, and you go to scene, here we go, and atmosphere and HDRI. These are some embedded templates that are just basically for flat lighting without shadows. So I do the scan room one right here, you can see right there, and then we want to go to our visual tab, shadows, and just deselect shadows. And we won't have any shadows, just in case. And if you want to rotate your HDMI, just to get a different angle there, you can also increase the strength like this. So maybe something flat and bright like this would be more nice, would be better for a cartoon-like appearance. Or else you can also rotate it. For example, if you press Shift-I or this button right here, you can rotate your IBL and get the result like this. But again, keep in mind that you want, with the HDRI, it'll add a background, and that'll be rendered in your final render. So what I would want to do is go to, scene here, and there's a sky item. Just go ahead and delete the sky item. There you go. And then you can render it again if you want. We can compare the two. So BG, let's call this BG1. This is all we'll do in iClone for the next little while here. Okay, so you can compare like BG1, oops, BG2, should be able to swap over there. So you can see the difference there. This one might be a little bit, there's not too much shadow on it, but if you want like a brighter cartoon-like appearance, maybe this one is more suitable. I'm just gonna go ahead and use this one for now though, because we can always lighten it later on. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do in iClone for now. I'm going to go into Cartoon Animator and import that. Oh, we closed the Explorer window. Darn it. I'm going to import in that background there. So BG2, I'll go ahead and just import that in and import it in as a prop. And there we go. Now, keep in mind that the actual thing that's going to render in your Cartoon Animator project is this kind of outline here. It's a blue outline right now. When you're in record mode, you can click on record mode up here. All the stuff that's going to render is in the red outline right here. For simplicity's sake, I'm not going to record anything right now. I'm just going to go into preview mode, and we're just going to expand this a little bit like that. And all you have to care about is what's inside the blue area, the blue square there. Okay, so we can do this, and then we can go down to like props, and let's move this up a little bit here. Props, and there's a town scene or a beach scene here. You can go to a coffee shop, I believe, or no, beach, and you can throw in like a ground or a street there. Where is the street there again? I think it's an outdoor scene here. Yes, indeed. Okay, there's our road. And so we can just throw this road on there. Okay, so it's just showing you how easy it is to combine the Cartoon Animator props and Crazy Talk props together. For a little bit of extra interesting, maybe something more interesting, we can throw in this skyline in the back here as well. So it's forward right now, so we just move it to the back, and we could have it smaller. Let's just move it further back like this. Okay, so maybe our characters, we just want to have that kind of skyline in the right background over there. Just like about there. And then maybe throw in a sky as well. And the sky, of course, you want to have in the very background. So where is it here? Oop. Just use it, make it as far back on the z-axis as you can right there. That's fine. Okay, and that skyline could be more interesting, of course, but I'm just going to show you this, how to make the background quickly for simplicity's sake here, because we want to focus on the animation stuff. Okay, so here's our scene right here. We'll just kind of go at maybe this angle right here, and then throw in this. I don't know. We'll throw in this crosswalk over here just to add a little bit of something more interesting to it. I don't know, whatever. Okay, so there's our background. Okay, so that's it. That's it for the backgrounds, and that's how you can create, use elements in iClone and save them as props, transparent PNGs, and export them into your scene. And so there we have our background all set up. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to bring in our characters, and I'm going to bring in a couple of cool characters that I like using. I like using a lot of these Gary Pye characters. He's one of our great developers on the content store and marketplace. Also our 2D content, our 2D community manager. If you go down to actor in his folder here, you can see there's a bunch of stuff. I'll throw in this anchorman. So essentially what we're going to be happening in this scene is we're going to have an anchorman kind of interviewing, she looked like Laura Croft, I guess, the Tomb Raider, but she's going to be interviewing her for, I don't know, on the street interview or whatever you want to call it. All right, and there he is. All right, so we'll bring him forward. And he obviously looks a little bit too big for the scene. Looks like he's 3 times taller than the door. So we want to like maybe scale him down a little bit to like something like this. But he is of course in front of the door. So there you go. This will be fine. About something like this. Just he'll be more forward in the scene here. Okay. Now, just so you're aware, in case you're kind of wondering what I'm doing here when I move things back and forth, if you go to the base of your character selection box or any item selection box, like this little thing right here, you'll see your cursor change to an icon like this. And that means you can move it back, forward and backward on the z-axis. If you want to see where your items are positioned on the z-axis, you can go up here and click on this 3D view. And then you can see our character is much further forward. Then we have the buildings, and then we have the road, and the sky is like way back there in the background. Okay, so just that's kind of like the 3D view. You can see where items are on the z-axis. All right, maybe a little bit disorienting, but that's why I prefer to use this view. Okay, and you can also always see the z value right here on the top, where I have highlighted. If I move it forward, the z value will become greater. The greater the z value, the closer your character is to the camera. Okay. All right, so we'll continue on then. I'll bring in the Bendy's character, this Laura Croft character here. And once she's in, then we're going to get started on animation. And the first animation we're going to do is we're going to have our anchorman character just simply walk forward into the scene. Now you may think, yeah, walk forward is pretty easy, but we're going to make him walk forward in a 3-dimensional fashion. Okay, and we're going to use the 3D motion importer to do that. All right, let's just make our Laura Croft character smaller here and bring her forward as well. Again, you can always compare the z-axis value. So she'll be about right here. And we'll flip her by pressing this button up here, horizontal flip. There you go. So he wants to approach her and interview her. Okay, cool. We have everything set up. So what I'm going to do first is have the anchorman character. We're going to go to animation. And in the motion tab, there's a number of different animations here. If we go to G3 human right here, you can see there's a number of different animations. There's Turner's female, Turner's male, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a folder below that. If we twirl that back up again, there's a folder below that called 3D motion. So this is new. And these are 3D motions that come embedded with Cartoon Animator. You can actually apply these. You can also save your 3D motions to this folder as well, and to the custom version of this folder, rather. Okay, so we're in the template tab right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my character simply just walk forward. And if you go down, there's a male walk right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply that with our character selected. Let's go ahead and double click that and apply it to our character. What that's going to do is it's going to pop up this window called Import 3D Motion. This is a new window, a new UI. And so again, I'm not going to worry too much about the camera view. And you can see now, if I scrub through the timeline, what's going to happen? He's going to like have a really weird type of walk forward. Okay, he's going to like walk sort of to the side. And we don't want that, okay? What we want to do is we want to have our character walk towards the Laura Croft character. So what we want to do here is the most important thing that you're going to learn is the camera projection angle, okay? So camera projection is basically how you can manipulate what angle the camera is looking at this 3D character from on the top here. All right, so if I hold Alt and I right click in this window on the top here, you can see that the camera projection angle slider will move around. So I'm holding Alt and right clicking, and you'll notice at the starting position of my character changes. Okay, now you can probably guess which angle I want him to walk at. I want him to walk at a negative 45-degree angle. So what you can do is you can actually you can click these, like click 45, click 90. That's probably the easier way to do it. It's very rare that you'll have to adjust these beyond the basic templates here. So you can actually just click them. So if I click on negative 45, what's going to happen is my character now, he's going to walk this way, okay? And that's exactly what we want. We want him to walk towards our character. And you'll notice that as he walks, he's actually getting larger, okay? So back here, he's smaller. And as he walks, he'll be larger over here. So it's basically a 3D effect already because he's walking at the 45-degree angle. And an important thing to note is if we go to body, at the bottom here under body, we have this option here, enabled Z-axis. Okay, this is very important. If we disable the Z-axis, notice he'll stay the same size. So now if we scrub through the timeline, he will stay the same size throughout the duration of his entire walk. Okay, so when you enable Z-axis, that allows your character to appear like he's moving forward, or he or she is moving forward on the Z-axis. Okay, and to what extent you can change the strength value right here. If we wanted him to like go forward to like 500 on the Z-axis, he'd appear like a giant beside her. Then we can do that as well. Then he'll kind of go from here to here. So you can really emphasize that that 3D motion or that appearance of depth in your 2D scene simply by enabling the Z-axis and having your character at that 45-degree angle there. Okay, I'm going to set it back to about 250. Okay, and that'll be fine. And he's taking a few steps forward. I mean, what we can do is we can have them maybe meet here. Since I don't want to change his position, I'm going to just move her. Oops. Oh, yeah. So when you click her, the 3D motion actually transfers over to her. Okay, so just be aware of that. If you have the import 3D motion window open and you click another character, it'll transfer automatically to that character. Okay, but we want to keep it on Mr. Anchorman here. So we'll have him walk from here to here. And I think that's good. Okay, I think the distance and everything is fine. Of course, you can adjust those a little bit later on. There's other options like foot rotation, which we won't worry about right now. You can also use motion offset. So if you want your neck to move down, and you can have your character like if he's sad, like, Charlie Brown's Christmas or whatever, just like that. You can do that. You can have the neck back or whatever. You can also do the same thing with the torso. So these are modifying these entire motions. You can kind of combine these to have a very downtrodden walk like this. Very upset. All right, and you can just double click on these titles here, these parameter names like neck, double click on neck, double click on torso to return them back to 0. And there's also hip as well. So hip will just kind of have your character's hip forward or backwards, okay? And you can play around with those on your own time, but I'm not going to worry about them right now. There's also hand, but this character uses sprite hand, so we're not going to worry about hand for now, okay? And projection, the main one. There's ground offset. You can have your character use a human IK if you want them to be closer to the ground like this. or floating higher. You know, obviously you wouldn't want to do that, but sometimes you may want to have him like kind of kneeling a little bit, and you can use the human IK to accomplish that of this ground offset. I'm just going to leave that at 0 for now. Hand-foot contact and hand contact. If you have foot contact disabled, ground offset's not going to work. Okay, so you want to make sure you have foot contact enabled there. All right, and root motion. We won't talk about root motion right now, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. Okay, so once you've kind of adjusted everything and you're fine with the way things look, we'll talk about lock to hip a little bit later as well. This is a very straightforward motion. So you're basically, it's the main thing to remember about this motion before we get into the other motions is it's always staying at the same angle. So your character isn't twirling, for example. If your character starts twirling, which we'll talk about a little bit later, that's when you get a little bit more complicated. Okay, so once you're good with that, once you're good with the walk, you think it looks fine and dandy, you know, like this, then you can go ahead and apply to timeline. And what that's going to do is it's going to apply the motion to your character's timeline, right? So you can press, you can close this down now. You can press F3 to go into your timeline. And just I always have this object-related track selected. So when I select a character, it'll pop up automatically with the timeline. And go to motion. And you'll find this motion clip right here, male walk, linear, blah, 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 okay? So here it is. You can scrub through the timeline and you can see it like this. If you want to emphasize the Z effect, you can, you know, have him move further back on the Z axis here. And then as he ends, move him forward on the Z axis. Now what this does, keep in mind that what this does is this will add a transform keyframe. If I decide to move him forward on the Z axis, right there, you'll see a transform keyframe in the timeline. You know, you may or may not want to do that. I'm going to Control Z and undo that for now. And we're going to keep him at this level right here. And I'm going to position my female character, Tomb Raider character, whatever you want to call her. I'm going to position her kind of right here. So this is where we'll start our interview. And I'll just kind of make her smaller there. So she's relatively the same size. And if you move your character at a frame other than frame 1, it's going to have this green line here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my character. So that'll create a transform keyframe right here. If I right click on the character, I can go to remove object animation and boom. Now she'll always stay at that position right there. Okay, maybe the awning is a little bit small for them, but you know, we're going to work with this, okay? You can always increase the size of the background if you want as well, like this. Let's just do that real quick. Bring it up. And again, since we did that at frame, whatever it is, 18, remove object animation. Okay. Okay, cool. That's fine with me. All right, maybe they're a little bit tall. But so basically we have the character walking towards her and he's going to bring out a microphone and start interviewing her. So let's go ahead and do that with the character selected. There's our male walk right here. And right after that, we have a male idle. We can just go ahead and double click on this male idle here. And this one doesn't really matter. It's basically if we go through this. Again, you can play back like this instead of previewing, like scrubbing through the timeline by pressing this button here. Okay, it's not really doing much. It's not a very strong idle. If I zoom in on the character, you can barely see him moving. So, but it is an idle, okay? And we can do this at 45 degrees, -45, or whatever angle we want, but -45 is gonna be the angle we want for this, okay? And then you can just click it. Okay, and then apply to timeline. No need to worry about that. And it's just gonna apply an idle to our character's timeline, right there. Okay, yada, yada. All right, so we'll close that down. Now, of course, there's the issue of maybe there's a little bit of an issue with the transition between the two clips. So if we go through here, you can see this frame to this frame, he'll just kind of pop into that idle pose. If you want the transition to be smoother, you can click on the second clip and just click and drag this little transition area here, maybe a few frames. So walk and then go slowly into the idle position. All right. If you don't have that, maybe it'll be a little bit too sudden. It'll be just boop, like that. Okay, so you can always click and drag. That's the beauty about clips in Cartoon Animator, is you can always just manipulate them in all sorts of various ways. Okay. All right, cool. So he's going to start. But first, what we want to do is we want to have him have the microphone. And this particular character has a microphone sprite for his hand. So what I'm going to do is just select the character, go over here to Sprite Editor, and we're going to switch his hand sprite for a microphone sprite. So let's go ahead and select the hand there. And once the hand is selected, you'll see a library of hands. And we'll just use this mic hand. Oh, right? Boom, now he has a microphone in his hand. So he'll walk up to the girl and say, now he's in that idle pose. All right, we don't need to worry about all these other tracks. What I want to do though is from here, what I'm going to have is my character like kind of talking to the female character. So he's going to just say something like, let's say, I don't know, hey, would you like to show me some of your dance moves? Okay, we'll just kind of keep it short. So go up here to create script. This is the easiest way to do it. And I'm just gonna use text to speech. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. And we're going to use, we'll just say, hi there, I'm interviewing street dancers. Can I see your moves? Okay, cheesy dialogue, but that's fine. And you can, of course, adjust all these things here. There you go.
Hi there, I'm interviewing street dancers. Can I see your moves?
Okay, and that creates that motion clip right there. A couple things that I want to do to change this, or that creates rather, if you go to the face track there, you'll see the advising clip right here and the facial track. So, and we can talk more about these in detail later, but what I'm going to do is go to the very first frame here. So,
hi there.
And I'm going to add on to that. So if we go to facial clip and we twirl down, you can see there's a whole bunch of keyframes at every frame for the hit character's head. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to overwrite that. I'm going to overwrite that using the facial puppet tool. Okay, so we're going to go to the face puppet tool right here. You can also use the Control U hotkey. His face just seems to, he's looking at the camera. We want him to kind of like 3D rotate a little bit to look towards the female character. So if we preview and press space, we can rotate his head this way, okay, to look at the female character. If we don't have this sort of rotation, we can take that off and preview. Okay, so you can add you know, facial expressions as well, like this. It's not going to affect the lip sync. Don't worry about that. Okay, so maybe you want him to kind of be like moving his head like this slightly as he's talking, so it looks a bit more natural. Okay, and so what I'll go ahead and do, and you can also go up here and adjust the puppet settings. You can adjust the strength of these. So there's head rotation if you want. We can put like 200. That doesn't go to 200, I guess. Just goes to 100 maximum. You know, iClone. But there you go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just record this. Again, make sure you're starting at the male idle frame right here, the very first frame of that second clip, just to keep things organized, and go to record. And
hi there, I'm interviewing street dancers. Can I see your moves?
Okay, fine. And so that generates a whole bunch of other clips. And now if we play back.
Hi there, I'm interviewing street dancers. Can I see?
Now the only problem here is his eyes are still looking at the camera. So what I want to do here is I'm going to manually adjust the position of the eyes. That's basically all we'll do for the face puppet. Unless you guys want to learn more about it, you can always ask me later. What I'm going to do is, you can see in the eye track, there's a whole bunch of eye keyframes. What I want to do is just delete them all. Okay. Since we're not going to be moving the eyes too much, I'll just go ahead and delete them all. Select them all and delete. Okay. And then at the very first frame, in my clip here, we have one keyframe for the eyes. And if I double click on that, it'll bring up this face key editor here. Okay. So face key editor is where you do frame by frame facial animation. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on both his eyes. you can see they become evil orange when I select them. And after I do that, I can just click and drag, and I can move them anywhere that I want. Okay, let's move them over here. Okay, so now it looks like he's actually looking at the female character. Okay, and then throughout the entire duration of the clip, his eyes are still going to be looking at the female character. Unless we want them to move away, then we can do so, but I'm not going to waste the time on doing that because we have other things to focus on. Another thing I want to do is during this idle clip, I want his hand to come up as he's talking to the female character. So obviously he has the microphone. He's not going to leave the microphone down by her knees. So let's go ahead and go to our motion key editor here, 2D motion key editor. And you'll see this little window pops up. And we can go ahead and close down all the face stuff now. We're not going to worry about the face stuff anymore. The face track. We'll just open up the motion track, close the face tracks. And here we want to worry about this right here. So at the very first frame of this clip, I'm going to click on a button called Set Key. And we're going to set key for the whole body, just to keep things simple. Again, I can explore this more if you have questions, but set a key for the whole body. And what that does is I'll create a clip right here for hip transform, or not a clip, a keyframe rather. And then I'm going to go a few frames later, and we're going to just bring his arm up, okay? And we can do that by selecting the hand and just kind of moving it up using Human IK, like this, and maybe just rotating it, rotating the wrist rather. There you go. Towards her, okay? Not at an obnoxious distance, but there you go.
Hi there.
All right, and if you want, if you feel that you know, that movement is too stiff or too robotic, what you can do is you can also right-click on any of these keyframes right here, or you can right-click on the main keyframe. Let's say for the let's do the right forearm. Right-click on this and go to Transition Curve, and then you can do something like Smooth.
Hi.
All right, you can also do like a stuttering start and end. These ones just kind of create a more smoother transition between the two keyframes. All right, we'll do the same thing for the right hand there. Smooth. Right, it just makes things a little bit nicer in general. And for all of these keyframes, just do the same thing. All right, and then we'll have.
Hi there, I'm interviewing street dancers. Can I see your moves?
Okay, can I see your moves? All right, cool. Now that's all we need for the first part here. What we're going to do is we're going to now have our second character, and I'm going to show you how to replace the head. It's like my Google phone there just kind of answered a question for some reason. Sorry for the Google interruption. I'm going to show you how to switch hand sprites. So these characters both have hand sprites. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to, or they have sprites for hands rather. And what I'm going to show you how to do is switch those out for bone hands just really quickly, because this is fairly useful, especially if you're using a iClone's 3D tools, because they have a bone hand tool, which is really useful. I'll show you that later. Okay, so we got another 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to open up Photoshop really quickly, because we're going to take our female character into composer mode right here. Okay. So composer mode is where you can basically be Frankenstein, or Frankenstein is the doctor or the monster, I forget. You can be Dr. Frankenstein and kind of take out the, or the doctor who created Frankenstein and just kind of rip them apart. Anyways, let's continue. We'll select the character. And again, what you want to do is go to Content Manager and to Body, and under Body, we have a hands folder, and in G3 there are bone hands. All right, and in bone hands we have some elastic folks hands, which are your basic hands. There's G3 360 human. You can use these hands as well. Let's go ahead and use these Martha palm up, palm front. It doesn't really matter. Let's go ahead and throw in these Martha hands onto our character here. And that's going to create bone hands. You'll see the hands will switch from these hands with one single bone to hands with a whole bunch of bones. The problem is that these hands are now white, all right? And if we want to make them a little bit larger, we can do so as well. Let's go to Edit Pose, click on Edit Pose at the top there, and click on your hand, and just make it larger, like this. Okay, maybe not too large. You can also slightly change the position if you want. She just has very thick forearms, and the wrists are very thin. Yeah, so go ahead and do the same thing for the other one. There you go. All right, so she has hands like this. Now the problem is, like I mentioned, they're different colors. So to adjust the color, it's very simple. We'll go out of Edit Pose mode here, and we're just going to launch our character in Photoshop. To launch Psd Editor. Again, you need the pipeline version to do this. Otherwise, you can just do them one by one. And go ahead and launch. And that'll bring up our character. And then we just need to really quickly and easily, we're going to just take out the bones here. We don't need to worry about those. We don't need to worry about the head. We just need to worry about the body. Okay, so here we have the hands. And under RL image, let's take care of the left hand bone or right hand bone. Let's take a look at the left hand bone first. Okay, so under here you'll find individual images for the individual bones. Okay, all you need to do is let's go ahead and use our fill tool right here, and let's just hold Alt and click here so we have a kind of a reference color. And then I'm going to select each one of the images here and replace them. This one here has 3 different finger sections. So you can just, under thumb, whoops. There you go. Finger 0 right here. So you have to click on each one of the individual sections there. Little finger. Oops. This is a little finger there. Whoops. And most of these have only a single image for the finger. I forgot this character actually has 3 different sections. So ring finger, finger 31. You know what? Just to make things easier, I'll show you something. I'll show you some better hands because this one will take a little bit longer than I wanted to. These elastic folks hands don't take as long. All right, let's just go ahead and use these female palm front. This one's fine. Okay, we'll replace it with these ones. And you'll see this one's a bit different here, but they still have the fingers. They're just easier to replace. I believe it's these ones. Yeah, it's got to be these ones here. All right, let's do the same thing. Launch into Photoshop. It'll ask us to update it. That's fine. Just to keep things a bit simpler. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so this one has, for the left-hand bone, you'll see a single image for the thumb. All right, so let's go ahead and do the same thing. Single image for the pinky. All right, so just save a bit of time here instead of doing 3 times the work, just to make things simpler. And index. So again, when you do this, make sure that you don't have all layers selected, by the way, otherwise it'll create a duplicate hand. Which maybe I figured out by accident there. Okay, so here's our new hand. Let's move over to the right hand and same thing. Right hand bone, thumb, little finger, otherwise known as the pinky, ring finger, middle finger. This can be a little bit monotonous, obviously, especially if you have those multi-section fingers. Hopefully I saved some time by switching to this one. And hand. All right, good. So let's go to File and Save. And then in Cartoon Animator, our character will have updated hands. And after this, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about motion link. So motion link is finally the final aspect we're going to talk about here. And And here you can, again, reposition these, resize them. Edit pose, maybe readjust the position slightly. And make it a little larger. Yeah, so motion link is the last thing we're going to talk about. Okay, so we'll go back to stage mode. And with motion link, it's important to note that we're actually not going to use this character at first. We're going to use her second. So let's go into iClone now. And we can just start a new project. We don't need the background here. I mean, we can have the characters in iClone if we want with the background, but I'm just going to go ahead and remove all that just to make things simpler so we can focus on the character here. And again, the motion link plugin, you can go up here to plugins, and under Cartoon Animator, you'll find it right here, motion link. Okay, I already have it by default on my modified panel here. So the only thing you want to do for motion link and iClone is really just go ahead and add dummy characters. Now you can do this for 2 characters at once if you want. You can select two dummy characters at once and modify them separately. If you want to learn how to do that, I can show you later, but I'm just going to keep it simple right now because we're going to focus on a motion that actually has kind of a twirl, a twist on the character. Okay, so this character is all set in iClone. And I'll go ahead and zoom on it right over here. And all you need to do is go ahead and select Activate Link. Okay, so now it'll be linked into Cartoon Animator. Now, there's really no option right now to send to Cartoon Animator because we don't have it linked in Cartoon Animator yet. So how to link it in Cartoon Animator? You need to go to Cartoon Animator first, obviously. And then under G3 under G3 Human, G3 360 Human, you'll find a dummy for 3D motions. Okay, so these are the dummies that you want. Now, our character is default. This one here is at a 45-degree angle. So we want to use this dummy to front side. There's dummies for other options here as well. Okay, so like facing backwards to the side. All right, so there's a whole 180 degrees of dummies. I'm just going to use this dummy front side. We can click and drag this anywhere in our scene because we're only going to use it to just basically save the motions. And that's what these dummy characters are useful for. It doesn't really matter the size of the dummy character, so you can scale it down. We'll leave it about here. Okay, and the reason why you always use these dummy characters when you're transferring motions to iClone is that these dummy characters act as sort of like a bone scale base. So these G3 characters, these are basically the default G3 character bones. So whether your character has really short stubby limbs or long stretchy limbs, this character, if you save the motion with this character, it will allow you to apply that motion correctly to any one of those characters, whether they have different size of limbs or body proportions or whatever. Okay, so just remember, it's important to remember that always save your motions to this particular dummy character, whatever angle you want. Okay, cool. So what we need to do is go up to our Motion Live 2D plugin. Okay, and this is where you will find iClone Motion Link. Ta-da! Okay, just go ahead and click that. It'll become green, and now your link is activated. However, you need to first go into your, with the character selected, you need to go to Body. We're not going to worry about the face. Body right here, and select iClone Motion Link, and Hand, and select iClone Motion Link. Okay, and that's basically it in Cartoon Animator. So let's go ahead and focus on this character. We'll bring him over here. Just ignore Anchorman in the background there. We'll go to iClone here, and I'm going to just resize this slightly so you can see both characters. And move it over here a little bit. And you can move the camera freely without adjusting the projection angle. Don't worry about that. Now we have the option to send to Cartoon Animator at the bottom here. And if we select that, let's just make our other dude invisible because he's going to be annoying later. Yabba dabba doo. Where is my scene? There we go. Whoops. Scene manager. There we go. Let's just make the adventure character invisible and the other actor invisible as well. All right, just so that I'm not distracting. Okay, so we have the body connected, the head connected, or the hand connected rather. We'll just keep this down here somewhere and load up iClone and send to Cartoon Animator. And there you can see it'll snap to the exact same position as this dummy character here in iClone. All right, and it says up here on the top right, sending motion. Make sure your link is activated. You can adjust the projection angle. You can see what happens when we do that. Very similar to what we just saw in Cartoon Animator. I'll keep this at 45 degrees. You can just click on it as well. The very important thing to note in this example is lock to hip. And camera tracking is not really important in this example, but we'll show it a little bit later. Lock to hip. Now I wanted to show you the hand thing that I was mentioning earlier. Let's just go into our modify tab here in iClone. With the character selected, if you go to the animation tab, this is where all your motion tools in iClone will be. And the reason this is good is because all the motion tools in iClone are a lot more comprehensive than the motion tools in Cartoon Animator. They're a lot more detailed, more powerful in various ways. I'll show you, for example, this edit motion layer tool. This is the one I mentioned earlier. If I take my character's hand, like left hand, for example, and I click and drag on the palm, notice that it'll clench my character's fist. And because this character has bone hands, it'll do the same thing in Cartoon Animator. Okay, pretty cool stuff. You can do individual fingers as well. So you can do the same thing with the right hand, like that. It'll clench the fist. Okay, pretty cool. Just wanted to show you that example. You can just reset everything. You can do fingers one by one. So I want to take the one finger. Okay. So this is a really nice, useful tool to use for hand bones. That's kind of why I wanted to have the character have hand bones. Yeah, that's one example. Another example is, of course, you can use the motion puppet tool, which is very similar to the face puppet tool, except this one is for the character's entire body. So in a motion puppet tool, there's a number of different templates here, like there's a bunch of idles. So say, for example, we want our character to be fighting. You can use this boxing motion. Now the hands are a little bit switched over, and I can show you how to adjust that later. But again, this is just some examples of, you can exaggerate it, make it more, make it faster or slower. All sorts of presets. I don't want to spend too much time on this because this is not the one we're going to use. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the Smart Gallery here. I'm going to type in glamorous. Whoops. Just trust me that I'm typing glam. Whoops. We're not in the, let's go back to all here and type in glam, because there's a glamorous pack, glamorous moves, female. Okay. And we're going to apply a motion from this content pack. Okay. Let's go down to the motion that I want to apply, which is this, where is it here? Stand curve 01 motion. Okay, there's a whole bunch of really cool motions in this pack. I'm just going to simply apply this first one. And when I apply this first one, pay attention to the character on the right. Okay, let's go ahead and play this back. Let's press the space key. So everything looks, pretty decent so far. But now the character starts to twirl, and she starts to, like, twist and turn around. So she turns, like, with her butt facing the camera. And then it's basically a full 360-degree turn. So obviously this looks a little bit twisted and weird in Cartoon Animator. So the way that you resolve that is, let's go back to the last frame of the motion there anyways. The way that you resolve that, I'm just gonna make the project link slider the same as the motion there, because you can also go down here and loop it. We'll just continue to play this back. So what you can do is go in motion link here. Notice that we have lock to hip selected. Okay. If we deselect lock to hip, and we go to, like, maybe an angle like this. Okay, it looks good so far, but again, now it's, like, really weird and twisted. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to lock to hip. Okay, make sure that lock to hip is selected. And you may need to adjust the angle slightly. Okay, let's use this one for example. So it starts off like this. This is okay so far. That's okay so far. Not too bad. Okay, maybe the knee there is a little bit bent incorrectly at the very end there. So let's go ahead and see if we can try and switch that at the end. This one needs to be adjusted ever so slightly. So maybe a positive 45-degree angle. Again, sometimes it's touch and go. And don't worry about the hands going through the chest and all that stuff. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so we'll keep this at about, it looks like it seems to be good at about 32 degrees or something. So again, different motions are going to have different examples. And you're not, keep in mind that you're not converting a character, you're not converting a 2D motion character. Let's reset the camera actually here. That may be what's causing it. You're not converting a 360 motion to a 360-degree character. You're basically trying to kind of fandangle it so that their character results on the results of your character's knees and everything are basically converted to a 2D environment. Okay, so I'm going to keep this for now, and we're going to adjust the knees manually a little bit later. Okay, so once we're done that, let's go ahead and just go back to frame 1 here. And we're previewing. Of course, you can preview here as well. So before I was just playing back. If you preview, you can do it here as well. And of course, there you go. Okay, so now the example is a little bit better. Let's just go ahead and record. So what this is going to do is this is going to record the actual motion into Cartoon Animator. Let's just take this as a little bit longer. And we're going to keep it at negative 45 degrees. That's what it should be at, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and press record in CTA. And then in the next 5 minutes or so, I'm going to show you how to adjust the layers and quickly tweak the body movements. Okay, so you can see obviously the hand into the chest there is less than ideal. Okay, that's fine. Okay, but we need to go ahead and stop. So we basically just recorded it, and because we were looping, we recorded a little bit extra, but that's fine. Okay, so let's go back into Cartoon Animator. Now all the editing we're going to do is in Cartoon Animator, so we can close this down. Now that we have our raw data recorded, we can just go ahead and close this down. And I'm going to press F3 and go into the timeline here on the motion track. And here's our motion clip, our device body puppet key right here. Okay, so here's the motion. Oh, there's our character talking in the background. Let's make that. Okay, so and there we go. I think it ends right about there. So we'll right click on that clip and break it, and just delete the other stuff that we don't need. Okay, so what you want to do here is, I think everything is pretty good up until that's fine. That's fine. And then this moment right here, you can see her forearm will go through her chest. So what we need to do here is we need to modify the layers on our character. So let's go ahead and zoom in real quick. And what I'm going to do is go over here to the Layers Editor and click on that. And you can see it'll pop up with our layer track right here. So what I want to do is at this frame right here, right before her forearm kind of goes, we want this arm to go in front of the chest. So right here, what we're going to do is we're going to, at this frame, select our character's right arm, okay? And then we're going to move it in front, not send to front. We're going to move on top. We're going to select move on top of the torso, which is the hip, okay? And you can see it adds a little keyframe there under our layer track. So now what happens is the arm will go in front of the torso. We need to also make the hand go in front of the torso as well, the forearm rather. So right forearm, same thing, move to top and move to top of hip. Okay, so now, there you go. And there you go, it's fine. The right arm, or the right forearm rather, is in front of the, so we need to do that one more time here. Right arm in front of the top of hip, okay. Oh, what we can just probably do is just send that to the top If we select right arm, you can select move to top as well, send to front, and then select of hip, and then right forearm, send to front of right arm. There you go. Okay, so now we're going to have this stuff happening, and the right forearm still needs to be in front of the hip as well. Right forearm, send to front of hip to make sure that's working. Okay, and then of course the right forearm needs to be in front of the left arm there as well. So at this frame, right forearm sent to front of left arm as it moves over here. So for this duration, it's going to be right there, and then maybe right here, you can see that the left or the right arm, the right hand needs to be in front of the right arm. So then at this frame right here, we go to right hand, we go to send to front of right arm. Okay. And then we have this. That's good. But then at this point here, we kind of want, it looks a little bit weird because the right arm is now behind everything. So maybe at about this frame here, what we're going to do is we're going to reset everything. So we'll just keep it simple at this frame right here. Or maybe I'll go this frame here. And now I'm going to go to hip and send to the front, move to the top. Oh, not move to the top, rather. Let's Control Z and do that. The hip needs to be sent to the front of the right arm, and that should fix things. There you go. Okay. So it's just kind of a little matter of just tweaking the layers, sending each one to the front at different times. Okay, and it takes a little trial and error. So now we have that kind of going like this, and that looks better as opposed to, you know, the right arm kind of going behind the chest, which would be a little bit weird. Okay, and it just goes back and forth and so on and so forth like that. Okay, so then what you want to do, the last thing we're going to do is save it and reapply it to our character. So let's go ahead and do that. And the best way to save it, you can see at the beginning there's a little bit of a T pose or an A pose. Just go ahead and go to a couple frames down, right click on that clip and just break it and delete the stuff that you don't need at the beginning. Okay, and then just take your little project link slider, move it to the frame that's the first frame of your motion, and take the second project link slider and move it to the approximate area that you want to end your capture. Okay, so I think this is fine. So the project link is essentially the area that we want to capture for our character. And what we're going to do is go to Content Manager and go to Animation, go to Custom, and then go to Perform. We don't really need Perform because Perform is actually including facial animation. But in this case, excuse me, we'll save it as Perform. So I'm just going to go ahead and plus. And that's basically just going to save everything. So we'll call this funky dance stuff. Okay, there we go. Okay, now what we can do is we can apply this to our other character. So after our dude interviews her, we can now get rid of this dummy character, by the way. We can just delete him or it and make sure that our other characters are visible. Antonio and Adventure Girl. Oh, yeah, they're visible. There we go. All right, and then we'll have our scene of events here. So we'll go to whatever angle we had before, something like this, I think it was, and play back. Oh, we need to.
Can I see your moves?
And so maybe she'll say something like, "Sure." So we'll click on her really quickly. Select her manually there. And she'll say something like, "Sure, dude. Here you go." or sure, dude, let's rock. I don't know, whatever. And we'll change her voice to female voice just in case.
Sure, dude, let's rock.
Okay, so as she's saying that, maybe we'll apply that motion to her. So again, in the content manager, funky dance stuff, click on her. All right, I had to click on her first. It's not selecting her for some reason. So we'll just click on her and then funky dance stuff, funkyzite. And then she'll do the dance.
Sure, dude, let's rock.
Okay, it's like pretty slow. It's maybe a little too sexy, but you can see the hand there in front of the chest, and that's what we wanted. Okay, so that's essentially how it works, and you can apply it to any character. Again, if you want, you can take that and go to the motion track and click on it and make it faster by going to length slider or speed here and just making it shorter.
Oops.
Sure, dude, let's rock.
Okay, but again, that's the challenge there was basically taking that motion where she twirled at a 360-degree angle and converting it to a 2D motion only facing at 45 degrees. All right, that's a very extreme example. Most of the examples aren't that extreme. Ones where you'll have your character kind of slightly turn and maybe 20 degrees, 30 degrees, something like that. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I really wanted to show you in this webinar because we're a little bit over time here. So I'm going to move to the Q&A section here, and we'll get started with that. So any questions you guys have, put those in the Q&A window there, and I will answer. I'll be more than happy to answer those. All right, we already got a few questions lined up here. Denny Reis asks, this webinar is not for Mac users. So here's the unfortunate thing. We don't have iClone for Mac. You can use Mac using something like Boot Camp, like a PC emulator or something like that. However, we don't have a version of iClone that's specifically for Mac. Any of the other stuff like the 3D motion, you can still download 3D motions from Actor Core to Cartoon Animator. So the Actor Core that I showed you earlier, you can download 3D motions from there. But with iClone, it'll be a little bit of an extra step where you'll have to use the Boot Camp or something like that to emulate the PC. So technically, it's also for Mac users, but Mac users, when iClone is involved, Mac users will have an extra step. So just be aware of that. Thanks for mentioning that, Denny. So Larry mentions, why render in 1920 by 1080 from iClone 7? Is that a CTA4 requirement? Absolutely not. You can render whatever resolution you want. The dimensions of your image don't really matter. It's just how detailed you want it in your scene. I'd recommend, obviously the higher the dimensions, the better, because it can scale it more. If you have like a low resolution image, you're going to be restricted when you're scaling it. So just be aware of that. All right. Okay, next question from anonymous attendee. How do you make sure the iClone 7 PNG renderings have a transparent background? Just make sure they're PNG. Generally, if they're PNG, they'll render by default with a transparent background. So render image. Just make sure the format is not BMP, JPEG. I'm not sure. I think Targa also renders with a transparent background, but PNG is the one that I always use because it renders transparent. Again, just make sure there's nothing in your background, like no actual background or no image or anything like that. Should be just gray or whatever your default background color is, and also make sure that it's current frame. That's really all you need to do. Aside from that, all these other options down here don't really matter. All right. PNG will, by default, just kind of have an alpha image with it. So it'll be transparent by default. Where was I here? Oh, zoom, there we go. Okay, next question. Rodney asks, can we get a Unity runtime, please? Is it on the map? I'm sure it would put CTA4 on the radar for a lot of game developers. We are working actually really closely with Unity currently. I believe there is something in a Unity live link that's on the way. Now, I don't have any specific timeline for when this is going to be released, but there is Unity live link stuff in the works. That'll be in the future, but I'm not going to kind of speculate exactly on when that will be. You can always get more information as well on our forums. If you go to forum.reallusion.com, I'll throw the link in here for you guys just so you have easy access to it. We often have updates. Our good old friend Pete here puts product updates on a regular basis in the forums. I'll throw this in the chat window for you. You can always find product updates here as well, like news and announcements. You'll find a lot of stuff here. You'll probably find that out. That's probably the fastest way to find things out, because they'll even preview a lot of stuff in news and announcements here. If you're unless you're subscribed to the newsletter, you won't really get. Just be aware of that. They'll be for the specific actual products here. So, all right, been a while since I browsed the forums. Yes, last question for Ronnie. Unity runtime, that's in the works. I can't speculate on when that'll be available though. But there is a high demand for people, especially from the Unity community, who are asking us for this exact thing. So you're really not the only one. And the more demand we get, there's also a wishful features section here for every item. Wishful features like right here. This one is for iClone specifically, but every product has a wishful features section. And our development team regularly browses these wishful features sections of the forums for suggestions from people on what kind of improvements we can make. So if there's anything specific that you want, I recommend putting it in the wishful features section there. All right, a question from another anonymous attendee. Could you ask the CTA4 programmers to allow finding? Yeah, so anonymous attendee here is asking about a smart gallery. So like iClone has a smart gallery, so it's super useful. It's something that Cartoon Animator doesn't have yet, but it is on the way. Okay, so the smart gallery, really useful tool. You can search for anything really. If you go back to hair, it'll show all of your different hairs, for example, that you've purchased over the years. You go to cloth, it'll show all the different cloths packs that you purchased for iClone. I don't have many for iClone. They're all for character creator. Different animation packs. Okay, individual items. You can go up to items here. And everything that you've purchased will just kind of show up right here. All right, so you can see tons of motions. And you can just search for something like stand. Okay, so you can see how many stands there are that I have. If I just search for stand, there's literally, I don't know, that's hundreds, maybe dozens at least. Or you can type in like idle under motion. If you're looking for an idle motion, there's all my idle options. Okay, so I have quite a few. That's just how Smart Gallery is really easy. You can just search stuff, and you can go search by pack or by item. And you can even just go like, stuff that you've purchased recently. I haven't purchased much recently, I guess. There you go. Anyways, lots of better options for the Smart Gallery. I recommend using it if you're an iClone user. But that is coming for Cartoon Animator. A question from Larry. Can the CTA Photoshop editing you did for recoloring the street dancer's hands also be done with either Photopea or Affinity Photo? Absolutely, yep. It doesn't have to be Photoshop. It can be any photo editing software. Whatever you set as the default photo editing software for Cartoon Animator, it'll be that one. So Photopea, absolutely fine. Affinity Photo. Some people use GIMP as well, which is a free Photoshop alternative. I've used that in the past. All right. Michael asks, can you do the same with animal characters? So we don't have really any dummy animal characters yet. So unfortunately, we can't do this process with animal characters yet. We've actually just launched the ability to do this with 2D characters. So animal characters, we get a lot of actual surprising number of people asking about various abilities with animal characters. But we are going to be potentially working on that in the future. I know there's something coming up with animal characters in Cartoon Animator 4. Whether or not that's the 3D models, 3D animation conversion, I don't believe so, but that could be in the works. Again, if there's something that you really wish for, that you really want to happen, make sure that's in the wishful features in the forums there. Okay, Jed asks, we have a mocap suit. Would this link easily as well? Yeah, absolutely. So if you're familiar with iClone motion capture, there's tons of motion capture options available for iClone. Facial motion capture, body motion capture. You can link all of it essentially. Not quite the face yet, but the body mocap you can transfer directly. But one thing to keep in mind is if you have the motion capture plugin for iClone, then you also have it for Cartoon Animator 4. You don't have to purchase it separately. So if the motion live plugin you do, but the particular gear profile you don't. So if you have like a perception neuron suit and you bought the gear profile for iClone, it'll automatically also give you the gear profile for Cartoon Animator 4 as well. And the same goes with all the other gear profiles. So, Faceware, Rococo, Xsense, OptiTrack, those will all be transferable over to Cartoon Animator 4 and vice versa. OptiTrack and Xsense not yet for Cartoon Animator 4 yet though. So Cliff asks, when you were applying color to the hand parts, you said to be sure to not, I missed what you said. Oh yeah, be sure not to, this little item up here, all layers. Okay, so if you select all layers and you fill, it's going to basically fill all of the layers in the hand. And what that does is it'll create like a duplicate hand on your character. I think I might have saved the character earlier and I can show you. Let's see if I saved the bad example. No, unfortunately not. But what it does is it just creates a duplicate hand. So it'll look like your character has, two hands on the same limb, which is a little bit strange, obviously. Let's go back to Q&A. Okay, next question from Sovereign Odell. Can I use characters made in Character Creator in Cartoon Animator? Technically you can, but you're going to have to create those characters in Photoshop. So the same way that I exported a character I exported my background as a PNG, you'll also have to export your character as a PNG in a particular 45-degree angle. And then you'll have to kind of deconstruct the character in Photoshop and put it back together according to the bone structure. So you'll have to create it using the traditional way to convert it to the Cartoon Animator bone structure. It won't just automatically convert over, unfortunately. And that process, I don't know, let's say that process would take about 10-15 minutes. So it's not tremendously time consuming, but it is time consuming to a certain extent. So Kim asks, I got iClone so I could use 3D motions. Why do I need Character Creator? For this whole process, you don't need Character Creator, essentially. iClone comes with a free version of Character Creator and also a pipeline version. You can purchase separately the pipeline version, but you absolutely don't need Character Creator at all for this whole pipeline. We just use Cartoon Animator characters and dummy character from iClone. All right, question from Meringue. If I want to improve and tell you some places I have error, how can I tell you or send feedback? The easiest way is to basically post on the forum. If you have questions, the easiest way is to post on the forum under technical issues or general or whatever, or training, tutorials, hints and tips. Because there's a lot of people that are there day after day and just have a lot of time, and they'll be able to answer your questions really quickly. You can also email me as well for more if you don't get your answer there. My email is kai@reallusion.com. That's KAI@reallusion.com. Feel free to email me anytime. All right. Don asks, is there a way to create just hands for animation? Yes. I mean, you can basically, you can technically have your character invisible with only the hands. If you do that in Photoshop, if you only want like, you know, dismembered hands, like a Addams Family type hand or something like that, yeah, you can do that. You just have to basically make all the other body parts invisible in Photoshop. You can just delete the images, absolutely delete the images. Like if I took my character in Photoshop and I, you know, deleted like the left arm, neck, foot, thigh, hip. So what we would have here is two dismembered hands. And then just save that back in and it would just save as the as only hands, and you wouldn't have any images on your character. You can also in Cartoon Animator go to the Sprite Editor as well. If you want to make a body part invisible, like select her head, for example. Oops. I'll select this guy's head. The characters seem to be having a difficult time selecting. Yeah. Let's try it one more time. That background is getting in the way of that tricky background. So for example, if I want to make her body invisible, Shazam, just click on the empty slot there. Okay. And then she's just noodle arms and a noodle neck with no body, right? You bring it back by going like that. That's the easiest way to make body parts disappear. All right. Next question. From Taz, the characters you are using here in this demo, do they have 360-degree heads? Yep, they do. Most of these characters by Gary Pye have 360 heads, so you can rotate them at all sorts of angles. The way to test if your character has 360 heads, like this dude, you can go into the composer mode. Don't worry about that. You could also, I guess the easiest way is to just use the facial puppet tool or one of the motion tools. But you can also go over here to 360 head creator and just a preview. Okay. So these ones not really like this one particular is not super 360. It's kind of limited to like, you know, these values here, but you can always improve this as well. You can customize it further and make the rotation stronger. Okay, this one goes from 0 to 45, right? But I mean, it does have the 360 capability. All it takes is a little bit of editing to make it stronger. And generally, you can do that with the sprites that are available on the main character. You don't have to worry too much about it. Right. Another question from anonymous attendee. Moving 3D scenes or characters from iClone to CTA is now done with rendering PNG. Is there a plan to flatten 3D items to 2D items in the way you've done with motions? I'm not sure. I don't know if that's in the pipeline. I haven't heard anything about that. Just because generally the way to do it is get a bit more flexibility with the PNG file, I guess. There's different ways you can import it in with the PNG. Like you can import it in as an image layer or all sorts of stuff. Like for example, a very common image layer in iClone is where is that image layer? Gosh. Well, it might be in stage. Yeah, image layer. I like this sniper one here. Let's get rid of our dummy there. Whoops. Delete. All right, and then we can just like render this, for example. Sniper. if we were watching this from a different angle, or from the angle of a sniper. So if you import it as an image layer, it's basically going to be attached to the camera. Just think of it as something being attached to the lens of the camera like this. And whenever I move the camera, like this, it's always kind of fun to do this. Okay. That's an image layer. So the image layer is basically attached to the camera no matter where it goes. Okay. That's just one of the various ways you can import in PNGs. But to go back to your question, sorry, I went on a tangent there. I'm not familiar with any plans yet to flatten the props. Currently, we're just working on the motions right now. Okay, question from Walter. Do characters have to be created as vector art based to be used for G3 animation? No, absolutely not. The characters can be image based. They don't need to be vector based at all. In fact, vector bases are currently not supported for G3 characters, unfortunately, but we are working on that as well. But yeah, because vector art is obviously scalable. If you zoom in really close, there's no distortion. But currently, the G3 characters are all image based, so it doesn't need to be vector art at all. In fact, it has to be the opposite. All right, question from Kalyana. I have Cartoon Animator on Mac, but parallels having the Windows on Boot Camp. Can I send movements across from iClone? Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, you do need to have Boot Camp enabled to do that. You have to run your Mac as a PC, unfortunately, due to the restriction on iClone there. Okay, question from Walter. Oh, that's the same question. Yeah, they have to be image-based characters. Larry asks, can props become 360 characters in CTA, like the Harry Potter sort of hat, for example? Yes, they can, but again, you have to go through that same process of exporting it as a PNG and then use like creating a character. So for example, if I wanted to, let's just get rid of this image layer. If I wanted to create a character in Cartoon Animator here, I go up here to create character on the top left. And then you have to select an image. This is from a while back. And just select whatever image. It'll have to be an image of whatever prop you have available. And then here you just have to add your bones, add your custom bones, and so on and so forth. This is for creating a custom character. If your character has 2 arms and 2 legs, regular amount of limbs, then you can go through a different process. But this is for creating a custom character. You create create your bones. Oops. Like that would be like your basic triangle type character. Anyways, yes, you can do that, but that's the process you go through there, Larry. Okay, question from Vicky. I don't have iClone. Can I still save the moves in Cartoon Animator? Yes, you can save any 3D motion in Cartoon Animator. So what I showed earlier, saving that last motion there, you don't need the motion link plugin. If you don't have iClone, then you don't need it at all. You can just download those motions from Actor Core, and you can convert them into Cartoon Animator format. So again, let's go to Actor Core, go up to from the Realision main page, products, Actor Core 3D motion platform. Tons of 3D motions you can just download here. Okay, and you can export them into other programs as well. All right. I'll throw the Actor Core link into the chat window for you guys. Oops. Just in case I'm on. All right. We got one final question. Oh, that's the last question. Awesome. This is probably like a record-breaking amount of the least amount of questions. So hopefully, yeah, hopefully I explained everything that you guys want to hear. And as always, there's our Learning Center as well if you want, in both iClone and Cartoon Animator. If you have any further questions, there's lots of tutorials in the Learning Center here. So go to Learn and then Tutorials. I just recently published a bunch of these tutorials here in the Learning Center for Motion Link and import 3D motions. So you can get them from here. And it should be under like the latest and most popular. Yeah, there's a few of them, I believe. Yeah, 3D motion converter down here. All right, here's the ones that you'll want. All right, so this basically, these 5 tutorials basically cover everything that we explored today in a lot more detail. So I'd recommend checking these out. They're pretty quick tutorials. I think they're about 5-6 minutes each. Yeah, check those out if you want to learn more about what we talked about today. All right, but I think that's about it. So thanks again so much, everyone, for attending today. It was really a pleasure to have you along for the ride, and hopefully you learned a little bit more about the possibilities of importing those 3D motions into not Character Creator, into iClone, into Cartoon Animator rather. Yeah, if any questions, as always, email me, kai@relution.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you in the next webinar. Thanks, guys.